At the very outset, I'm to thank Balwant Singh Thakur, one of the eminent directors of the country, and Nadrang Jammu for arranging such a talk series and inviting me into this very prestigious platform. So I'm really happy to speak about what I think about theatre and how I respond to the theatre around and my own work. It's really a gratifying experience for me. See, as many of you know, I come from Kerala, and I started my theatre somewhere in the late 70s and 80s, and is continuing right now. I was born in a very small village, but there was a lot of theatre happening around me in that village when I was a child, like say when I'm 15 to 20 to 25. I'm in the midst of theatre, that too experimental theatre happening in villages, done in a very rustic mode. We don't have that much great lighting, set, music, that show of the craft, but the real passion was there. The villagers who are not so educated in theatre, we were reading good literature, the modern literature from the West and from Malayalam and from other parts of the country, and fascinated by the new movements in literature, art and politics of the 70s, which was very vibrant, and the young people who are discussing about political situation, social structure, what to do, what not to do, what is ethics. It's a time of the big change. The whole outlook of the people, and books and reading were the most immediate common things which almost everybody did. And there was a lot of theatre happening around in every corner of the village of Kerala. We performed productions like Waiting for Godot, productions of Brecht, etc. in our own way. I don't claim that those productions are great or big or that are events in the history of Indian theatre, but they are events in the history of that village, the theatre performance history of the village. So that was happening a lot, and people were watching it. That's the most important thing. The villagers came and watched it, and they responded to that, and in their own way they argued about it. And I was growing up like that. Naturally, the theatre movement everywhere in India is taking a shift and turn, and a lot of things are happening. In 1977, a school of drama has been started functioning in Trichy under the University of Calicut, and where we have a 3-year course for studying theatre, which I wanted to join, but my parents didn't allow me, and they said no. I opted for studying chemistry in a college. You have to continue with that. I don't regret at that, because after studying chemistry I could get a job and teach as a teacher in a college. I could earn my bread. Otherwise I don't know what theatre should have been given me, but I could keep that passion for doing theatre, and I could do theatre continuously from that day to this day. So it doesn't make a big harm. And during my days, I have few theatre people who has influenced me. One is Professor G. Shankarapillai, who was instrumental in spreading the message of modern theatre and the systematic way of doing theatre, the new things that's happening around the globe, and what should be the theatre, what are the different possibilities, etc. And who was the first director of the School of Drama. He did a lot of workshops throughout the whole state, including campuses, villages, institutions besides the School of Drama, and invited theatre people like B.B. Karand or Benzi Kaul or people like that to come, and even from outside India they come and stayed there, did workshops and taught us what is theatre, what are the possibilities of theatre, etc. So he's one inspiration. And then there is Kavalam Narayana Panikar, K.N. Panikar, the master of the theatre, The Roots, who has been working continuously from the 70s with great productions like Avanavan Kadamba, Devatar, etc. And also he has produced the productions in the scripts of Bhasa in his own way, like Urubhangam or Karnaparam, Madhyamayagam, all these productions. So the way he used theatre, the way he used the indigenous village culture and our own performance tradition to create a new idiom is there, and he was also a big inspiration. And there is Professor Narendra Prasad, who was a playwright and director by himself, and he was also trying to create a unique performance tradition based on the performance tradition of India, along with what is happening outside, kind of marrying the Western and Eastern theatre perspectives into one and creating good productions. And also a lot of other young people like Jose Chiramel and others who are doing, influenced by Badal Sarkar from Bengal and the third theatre. All these new things are happening just like a tornado around me. And naturally growing up within it and started doing theatre. I started as an actor first, then I have to shift to the directing and then to designing. Occasionally acting here and there. So that formed my theatre. So looking back, and when you're asking me what is my vision about theatre, is that, I have to tell that, the theatre should, for me, the theatre should speak to the contemporary life. And the play should be speaking about the life of the people living right now around me. So it's about my own life, my own social structure, my own happenings, my own power relations, which I am to confront with, and things happening around me. That's one thing. And the second thing is that it should reflect or resonate the ethos of the land. It should be speaking in the language of the land. It should address the sensibility and sensitivity of the people around it. So how to do it? So these are the two questions. The contemporaneity of the production. What does it communicate? What does it speaks about? And to my people, can it relate to their life, their situation, what is happening around them, and can it address them through the language they can understand? So these are the two questions that created my theatre. So in the beginning I may not be very much aware about the things, but I was reading a lot and I was trying to understand, observe people, observe what the other theatre people are doing. How does Habib Tanvir creates his production? How does it get related to that? What is Benzika trying to do? What is Balwant Thakurji was doing too? I remember the productions of Balwantji, the production of Gumai, how that Gumai speaks about the landscape of Jammu to me. How does that play reflects the culture of Jammu to me? I couldn't understand the Dogri language when I saw the production, but I could see that the travel of the groom with the bride from one place to another place, going up and down and going up and down and going through a big distance, and the trouble of the traveling means the ups and downs of the valley and the sounds I can hear that reflects from the valley, and the culture. It's not just the costumes, it's not just the music, it's the way the play transforms the landscape, the life of the people, the life of the present people. Of course, he's speaking about a folk tale or a tale that has happened somewhere else, but it speaks about the hurdles of the present day people, the thirst of the people, the thirst of somebody, and the female voice that is not heard again and again, again and again, but finally they have to stop hearing that. I remember the production, which I think I have seen it somewhere in the 2000s. So these kind of productions that's happening, and how different theatre people in India and then later from abroad are using them to address the reality of life around them. is also the major concern of me. So it's not to imitate Balwantji, or not to imitate Habibji, or not to imitate Vinci Kaul, or not to imitate Neelaman Singh, not to imitate Alkazi, the great mentor of Indian theatre. No, it's not to imitate Brecht, not to imitate Grotowski or Peter Brook. No, it's to understand how these people, how the other people. So I just named a few names because these names are familiar, but there are a lot of people whose names are not familiar. It's just in the village, it's not just in the places, but I've seen them also. I've seen the commercial theatre, I've seen the Sangeet Natak, I have seen the different forms of theatre that is addressing how does it communicate with the people, and what does it communicate, how effective it is, how relevant it is. These are the questions that comes to my concern when I'm doing it. So to make it simply, when you ask me to find out what is my vision of theatre, it happens just by itself. No, we don't pre-plan that I am going to do this because I want to speak like this. But when I start doing a play, when I take a text, so it starts talking to me in terms of the new happenings, new incidents around me. So when I am reading Shakuntalam, it is not about the story of Dushyanta and Shakuntala. It's not about that story that happened say 2500 or in the mythical period or in the years before. It happens at the time of Mahabharata, if it happened at all. So it doesn't mean it happens about the story of Dushyant and Shakuntala living right now. It talks to me about how Dushyant treats Shakuntala and how or why Shakuntala is voicing or not voicing her concerns or her feelings. What exactly she is thinking inside. Is she saying that? And if she says, where she says it, how she says it. So these are the concerns. These are the concerns when I am going to do a production. So when I am looking back, I was mostly doing as I have a slight inclination to redo classics. Yes, I like classics. I love them. I would love working with them. To look into the list of the plays I have done, you could see Karnabharam by Bhasa. You could see Shakuntalam. Two versions. One I did for National School Drama in Hindi, and then later version which I did for my group Logatharmi in Malayalam. That Shakuntalam, slightly different, but both the plays speak about the same thing. I have done Shakespeare. I have done an adaptation of The Tempest. I have done Macbeth. I have done a production which is named Agle and Cleopatra. Cleopatra was one character, and Agle is a mythical character from Lithuania. It's a folk character from there. So how do these two characters speak the same thing? So I've done Shakespeare. I've done classics like Uberoi by Alfred Jarry. So I've done Medea by Euripides from Greek. So I do ancient texts. I've done Pattabaki, Return in 1936 by K. Damodaran in Malayalam. So I've gone for a lot of different kinds of texts. I have done poetry, I have done adaptations, I have done device productions. I've done Chandradasan with children. I have done Draupadi, again written by me but from the Mahabharata. So we could see that, I do classics or retell stories from the epics or myths or fables. But as I suggested, I'm doing these productions not to retell the story written by Shakespeare or Euripides or Bhasa. What I'm doing is that I'm trying to reread it, reinterpret it, so that it speaks about my contemporary life. And many times I have felt that this classic speaks better than a newly written play to speak about the present day reality. I feel that most of my productions are about marginalized people, powerless people, about people who have been victims of the mainstream power structure, like women, Dalits, ordinary people, common man, all these kinds of people. I'm trying to voice them through my productions. So women is a very common recurring theme. The experience of a female is a very recurring common theme in many of my productions. To list Shakuntalam, Kalinadagam, Draupadi, Media, and one of my last productions which I did with NSD is in Kannada. It's Kariya Devare Huduki. It's a play written by G. Shankarapilla in Malayalam named Karutta Devate Tedi. It's translated into English and Hindi, I think. In Search of the Black God. In Search of the Black God. It also speaks about the right of the female to go into a temple and pray, which is a very hot issue in Kerala. But in 1977 itself, Shankarapilla has written about that in that play. So when the husbands, the 5 husbands are going to visit a temple in search of the black god, the wife says, I am also coming with you. I want to see and pray to the god. And they said, no, you cannot come along with us. Then she said, who said that? Is there a law written like that I cannot come, women cannot come, etc. It's the play very subtly points about the right of the female to go in search of the god and pray, and what happens in the journey, and how she is victimized and how she is killed. All those things are there. So it speaks about marginalized women, their right in different, each of the different plays addresses the issues in different kinds, in different angles of their existences. And I speaks about the life of the Dalit community, the downtrodden, the really means the last of the caste system which is so prevalent in India. The productions of Karnabharam, Puranadi, a play written by Kavalam Narana Punikar, Nandan Gatha, a Tamil play, an adaptation of a Tamil play written by Indira Parthasarathi. So these plays, along with the play, Media has also a reference to that, that the caste issues. Shakuntalam also has an issue. She is a tribal girl. Shakuntala is a tribal girl, while Dushyant comes from the city. Environmental issues, how the environment is being victimized by people. Like I've done the plays with children, especially like Tattamaram, etc., to speak about those things, and environmental awareness, etc. It's environmental issues, and speaks about how these monstrous kings who take power as a monopoly and victimize those people. Like productions in Macbeth, Buroi, it's a parody of Macbeth again, seeing the same theme in 2 different tones, 2 different styles, etc. And again, the process of colonization, how the Western nations or colonizes an eastern island, an eastern country. It can be a study on the process of colonization of India by the British. I've done Tempest in that angle. And one of my last productions, which is named Puck in Arcadia. It's Arcadia Delhi Puck, which I conceived, and Ramanath wrote it in Kannada. It has been done for Rangayana. It has been widely shown in all of Karnataka. It takes different stories, different characters from Shakespeare and other productions, other major texts that happened in the history of theatre. Many productions, means Puck is there from Midsummer Night's Dream, the 3 witches are there from Macbeth, and that characters from the King Lear is there, along with reflections from Oedipus Rex, Caucasian Chalk Circle. So many productions are there, and I've created a new story, taking these glimpses from here and there, and we had a very humorous musical named Arcadia Puck in Arcadia. Arcadia is a fictional land, and it speaks about mainly about a story that happened somewhere far in a very far distant land named Arcadia a long time ago. But the whole play is humorous, funny, musical. At the same time, what is inside the play is, or it speaks about lesbian marriages, honor killings, and this people who makes very big speeches and manipulate people, reflecting Julius Caesar. You can think about any speeches by any leader who can just handle people, crowd into their hands and do whatever they want. So these things which are contemporarily very important in India, and that's things happening around. So this, in a way, these plays are addressing thematically about this. So what I was trying to say is that, in a way, my productions has a strong comment about happenings in the present day social reality around me. It should relate to issues happening around. So it should speak about the anxiety of my own age, the conflicts of my own age, the contradictions that I see in the social life and the power relations in the social structure, etc. To express that, I reread and reinterpret any text. If I don't find something in that line, I will not do that production. So my one thing is that my plays should be addressing contemporary reality. So that's about the content. It's not me who is the first person. Abhijit has done it. A lot of people, almost everybody is doing it. Very sensible theatre persons are doing it like that. So that's about the content. And means I'm a strict Stanislavskian in that sense. I have a very clearly defined super objective when I am designing a play, means when I'm doing a play. Then the question of the form comes in which language I speak to communicate this. And my language of theatre, it's not that verbal language anymore. Yes, I have a lot of lines the actors speak, but the meaning of the lines are created by the way it is being spoken. It's not the dictionary meaning as we understand it in the text. When you speak the same line, it can mean the opposite. So how can you create meaning, even a different meaning or a distant meaning or layered meanings, even for a spoken word, is the next issue that comes in. And I have to create a form which will be reflecting these concerns, and the form should speak, as I mentioned, in the language of the land. So I'm a part of the long history of theatre, from the Natyashastra period or even ancient period, where the folk theatre is so much there, the folk ritual theatre of the land, the whole humanity. Of course, I live in Kerala. We have a lot of great tradition of folk traditional forms. There are some 460 listed forms, different listed forms. Each village has its own narrative and ritual performance forms, which may be theatre, which may be theatrical, or which may not be speaking a story, etc. But there are performance traditions and performance structures and performance modes. And then there's the Natyashastra tradition. We have the great tradition of Kudiyattam and Kathakali, and all those things are there. Then I'm not limited to India. I don't see it. I was thinking that there was an Indian ethos around it. But later when I go into the things, I find that no, it is not just an Indian ethos, it's an Asian ethos. It's there in Japan, it's there in China, it's there in the Eastern land. And the Asian ethos of the performance tradition, the Asian aesthetics of performance tradition is different from the Western notions of the performance as denoted in Poetics by Aristotle, the Western theory of aesthetics and the mode of production and the method of operation of the play onto the audience. So the two different traditions, the Eastern tradition and the Western tradition, one starting from poetics and getting nourished up to Stanislavski, then the other Eastern tradition, it is there in no kabuki, Chinese opera, Kudiyatam, Nautanki, Banpata, Tamasha, so many forms which are the treasures of the heritage of humanity that has been imbibed by or explored by human life, the social and individual life throughout the history of mankind. So I am just part of that. And of course there is a modern theatre, some Brecht is there, Grotowski is there, Arthur is there, all those, to Schechner, to Barba, to all the new happenings, to up to the post-dramatic theatre and the new tendencies. It's all there. I'm in the midst of that. So all these great traditions, all these different approaches are around me. I'm not isolated from anything else. So all these things are pouring around me, and then I have to create my own thing for my own purpose, my own need, my own specific reason to express my theatre. So when it comes, what I find is that when I am to do a play, I find that I can use all these traditions, but I'm more comfortable, or my theatre is more comfortable with the language of the land. I don't call it theatre of the roots. It's not just the theatre of the roots. We have to go deeper into it. It's not just having a costume or a music or something like that externally, peripherally. No, we have to go deeper into it. We have to go deeper into the narrative mode of the play, and what is possible and what is not possible in a performance is the question. See, I have a lot of challenges to deal with the time, the shifts in the time when I am narrating a story, to deal with the spaces, the transformation of the spaces, to convince the audience that this story happens right now here in this land, in this time, and now I am taking it to say 50 years, or this play happens there, which in a land which you are not seen, say Arcadia, which you are not seen, which only I have conceived, etc. So these different spaces, different shifts, different transformations have to be communicated to the audience. Basically, very basically, from time immemorial, theatre does the one and the same thing. The one and the same thing, that is to narrate the story. We are storytellers. We theatre people are storytellers. We are speaking, we are retelling stories to those people who has come to see us and hear us. So basically we are storytellers, but we tell the story for our own purpose. We have a purpose of telling the story, leave it, which I have explained already. So basically we have to tell or narrate the story, and we have our own limited resources, and theatre is one of those forms where we are restricted by time, restricted by space, restricted by tools, but we have that immense scope of the actor, the living actor on the stage, who can perform, sing, explore, create an atmosphere, and we have that imagination of the audience who can share in the process of creating our land, our space, our fiction, our atmosphere. So it's easy for me to create the ashram of Kanwa. I can create the Kurukshetra war, the war field. I can create Arjuna going on a chariot, and I can create the big war happening. I can create the travel of Ravana from Lanka on a Pushpak Viman, a Pushpak plane, a Pushpak Vimana, and I can see how his road is blocked by the Himalayas. I can express how he has handled the Himalayas, and suddenly I can come back to the earth, to life, the daily life of the human. So I have a lot of issues which has to be addressed, and in that process, what is going to help me? It's going to be the narrative ethos, the narrative structure, the narrative mode. And for that purpose, I just feel that I have to go more closer to the Eastern mode of storytelling than the Western poetic based proscenium structured theater. I may be doing the play in a proscenium. I have to, because as any theater persons who is doing a production has to travel around. When I am traveling with my production, say to Jammu, I don't know which place I am going to get to perform. Maybe I have to perform it in a proscenium stage, but still, it may happen on a proscenium stage. You'll be watching it through that fourth wall, but I should have a sensibility and sensitivity to break the fourth wall and to start communicating directly to the audience, as if our traditional theater was doing, so that that wall disappears, that whole space disappears, and we are in some other space which has been mentally created, not physically, mentally created by the actor and the audience, that is being communicated to the language of the theater have created. So it's to create a performance space and structure and performance milieu that can address the ethos of the land. That's one thing. So how to do it? I cannot I cannot take a form, a folk or traditional form as such, and then plant it into the story. I told you that I am doing a play to speak about something specific. I have a super objective. This term is used by Stanislavski. I have a super objective when I am retelling a story, and my form should have a strong relationship with the super objective. Or I have to say that my form also should speak the same story. My form also should speak about the same conflict. It should also speak, of course, with its own language. The lighting should speak about the same story. The set should speak about the same story. And the story, the progression of the story should be reflected in the craft, in the visual, in the structure, in the visual structure of what I am creating. Otherwise, the form will go in one direction, the content will go in another direction, the understanding of the audience will go in a third direction. So it should be connected, actually married. It shouldn't be divorced. It should be linking together. So the thing is that I have to find out a proper performance language which can address the issues of performance, the problems of performance, also can link with the content of the thing. I don't know whether I would be clear enough in just telling you this like this, or it would have been easy even if we could have a performance as an example and then speak about it. I'll just briefly, very briefly, try to speak about my Shakuntala, which is one of my last productions. In Shakuntala, I'm speaking about this because the text is known. I need not tell the storyline about him. So as I told you, I'm not to redo what Kalidas has written in the text. No, it's not my aim. But it doesn't mean that I am going to remove Kalidas out of it. I am using the same text, the same lines, with a different meaning, different perspective, different understanding, in a different context. It's the context that decides the meaning. It's the life we live decides the meaning of what we say, what we see. So this story of Dushyant coming to the ashram of Kanwa as a hunter. I've renamed the play as Shakuntalam, the Tale of the Hunt. That's the full name of the play. So it's hunting. And who is the hunter? And who is hunted? That's the next question. And at the very beginning itself, Dushyant comes not with an ordinary bow and arrow. His bow is made of sugar cane, and his arrows are flowers. And it's not one, there are five people, five men coming together as hunters with sugarcane in their hand and flower arrows. So the connection is very clear. Is Kamadev. Is Kamadev coming to hunt? Whom? The Asrama Kanya, the deer, the innocent deer. So the transition between the deer and the woman, the girl, and the conflicts of the hunting. So this animal is at a far distance. There's blocks. He cannot approach it. There are ups and downs in his path. He demands that no, he has to go fast so that he can reach the animal or the prey so that he can hunt. So this transition itself speaks, telling about the hunt. And then the hunting focuses on to two characters. Four men goes off, the other girls goes off. It's just the hunting and the tensions and the story goes like that. That's one thing. And for Dushyant, it's a hunt. Kalidas has very clearly said, written that no, Shakuntala is not the first girl. He has many girls in his life. And there's a line in the second act where the Vidushak says that no, after all the sweet fruits, you have the thirst to eat the imli, that tamarind. After having all the women in the city, now you are after an asrama kanya, and this is not fair, this is not good. So he's very clearly saying that no. Then Dushyant says no, it's because you are not seeing that girl, and he decides to stay there and go to whatever extent so that he can have her. And after having, and you can see that no, Shakuntala resists, and somewhere between the third act and fourth act they meet, and she gets pregnant, and then he goes off. And in the fourth act, Shakuntala, Gautami and the brothers go to the kingdom of Dushyant. And in the fifth act, Dushyant says, I don't remember you, I don't know who you are, I have not met you, sorry. You women are so intelligent. You make stories. You make men to believe things. So I cannot accept you. And in that act, towards the act, she calls him Anarya. She speaks out. So that's the Shakuntala for me. And when I'm designing it, the whole poetry of Kalidas, the whole description of that has to come in. And this text is very interesting that everybody knows that in that body of the text there is no great dramatic conflict. All the incidents happens in between the acts. Between the first act and the second act, something has happened. And the second act reflects on the reactions of that incident. Between the second and third act, something happens. And the third act speaks about the responses of that. So it's a poetic narration of incidents that has happened outside the body of the written text. So it's not dramatic in that way. It's a more poetic text. So I have to do the justice to that also. How to bring down this poetry onto the stage, and how to bring out that conflict between the palace of Dushyant with that ashram, that atmosphere that has to put in. So I have used a lot of flowers, a lot of music, a lot of paintings which depicts the images of the similes of Kalidasa, the deer, the mango tree, the flowers, and that very atmosphere set for romance, set for love making. So that beautiful and very cooling atmosphere is created with paintings, art, flowers, materials, music, poetry, choreography, movement, all those things, lighting. But after the fourth act, the whole thing changes. It changes between, the fifth act is more conflict, they have more conflict, dramatic conflict also. The whole thing disappears. That flower that was decorating just drops down onto the stage, and a sweeper, the character is also there in the fifth act of Kalidas, sweeps up all the flowers into a kind of waste here and there. The beauty disappears, and the paintings that have been done in Pahadi style, disappears, and the paintings, there are 3 paintings of women coming, big paintings. There were smaller paintings before. Big paintings of women done in Raja Ravivarma style, which is a royal palace style. So there's a conflict between the style of painting from the Pahadi to the Ravivarma school of painting. That's one. The model painting. And the second one, all the flowers, the beauty disappears. More drab yellow light falls in, and it's just patches of light here and there. No movement of light, and the music almost disappears from the play. It's a musical. My play is a musical. But in the 5th act, there's not that much music. Only the last sequence is a music when Shakuntala goes out saying that I do not believe in that ring anymore. And she goes along with a group of women, birds or whoever are they. So that if you look into the aesthetics of the production, the visual language of the production, there's a big difference between the 5th act and the first 4 acts. And this tells the story again. This tells the and even in the movement and the blocking, the actors are not moving at all. They're almost remaining at the same place, motionless and speaking very clearly. So the movement and cut, so the performance style differs. So I have to find out. That's what I was trying to say. I have to find out a cultural visual language to speak the same content of the form. So the content has to be reflected into the structure of the thing also. So that mostly that visual language will be, I'll be using a lot of paintings, movement, dance, music. I love musicals. I'll use a lot of musicals. I use a lot of colors. I use properties. I use things that can come and go to the stage. Shiftable things. All these things are there. And I'm speaking for a lot. I am just finishing 3-4 minutes so that you can ask me questions. 2 more things which I have to say is that I love narrative theatre. I love to narrate stories. I am greatly influenced by Habib Tanvir. The actors are not just characters. They are narrators, they are characters, they are singers. They come to you, directly address the audience. They shift from the character to the narrator. They can be the critics also. They can criticize the character by performing. So they are basically performers, not characters. Again, the Indian tradition of doing it. We gives immense freedom. It gets immense freedom. When I can be a character, then I can say that no, this character does like that, and then I can go back. So these transitions and transformations that is possible in our tradition of performance, where shifts are possible between narrators. I can tell you this is this place, I can tell you this is a thing, I can tell you this is my, and I can tell you this is my context. Now I am acting this character in that thing. I can suddenly go back, come back. I can be a singer, I can be a dancer, I can be redefining or reinterpreting the character. I can shift to this such shifts. I love a lot, and to the extreme end, at times I go to the ritualistic transformations, which is too much. It's too common in our Kerala ritual performance traditions, like Tayyam or Mudiyattam. You might have heard these names. There are so many in Kerala, where the actor just gets the character he's portraying into his body, gets transformed into the character, and get possessed with the character, and go to that level of ecstasies where he identifies himself as the character, and the audience also believes that he is the character. That happens in the rituals of Kerala. This possession of the character, transformation completely. Teyyam itself means, Teyyam is, the word meaning is the god. So it's a tribal god who is being invoked into the body of the performer. The performer will be embodying him, inviting him, and he leaves his body and mind and his voice to the god to possess him, and then he starts behaving as the god and speak as the god. The audience believe that he is the god, and they say to the god that I have this problem. Then he'll give the remedies. So he gets possessed, and when it goes beyond a level, there is a mechanism to hold him back to his normal life, to transport him back to the thing. And this is an immense possibility. Getting to that high level of extreme emotional identifying moments. Of course, we know that we have to speak lines, we have to be in the blocking, we have to be in the lights, we have to be there. But this possibility of such a travel, at least a threshold, at the threshold of being conscious and partly conscious and spontaneous. I can say that's a better word, spontaneous. You are conscious about what are you doing, but you are at the brim of, at the threshold of, or the frontier of getting into that subconscious thing. And if you can act in that kind of thing, and if your performance allows an actor to be in that moment, at least in a particular scene, a particular place, that is an immense moment of communication. I love that. So these two extremes of getting aloof and narrate, and then allowing the actor or getting the actor to transport himself to that area of this possession, that I've tried in many productions. Like these possessions happens in Kali Nadagam, in Karnavaram, in media, but I have to give space for them to get into. I have to create a kind of mechanism by which the actor can slowly get into that level, and then I have to give space for him to rest and relax after that moments of identification, and then come back into the story back. So these things have to be put into the acting design. So I believe that there is an acting design that has to go into the performance. The acting design is also very important as the visual design. We go for the visual design, how we arrange the space, what is the relationship between actor, audience, all these things, the character, actor, audience, etc. But there is an acting design. How does an actor, a performer, slowly travels into the character? What is the process of going into that? And what is the process of interacting with the other actor, other character? So these mutual interactions, self-journey into the character, and how these different actors and different parts of actors coincide and merge to the content and the performance language. That's a very important thing. So I, knowingly or unknowingly, sometimes I just think about it. Sometimes I find this is a place I have to go. I have to get her to that level, or him to that level, that actor to that level. So what is the process with which I could help the actor to travel from the mundane performance level and to that level, and then to orient him or her to do this and that, and then take the narration, go ahead. So this kind of an acting design I am interested in. I just do it. I don't know whether you are clear about it, but it's the way I do work with actors. So I work with actors a lot. Somebody says that I'm an actor's director also. When you see my production, it's all spectacle, movement, musical, kind of very interesting and intense thing. But that intensity of emotion on stage happens because of this approach of working with actors. I use Stanislavski a lot. I use emotion memory a lot. I use the process of transformation in our ritual theatre a lot. I use physical theatre a lot. I use jugglery and commedia a lot. I use physical theatre means a lot. It depends on your purpose, the style. For example, in Arcadia the Lipak, it was a comedy. It was a comedy. It's all humor. It's all just fun, timing, funny things, musicals, dancing, and the music was western. It was a rock music. It is a kind of a rock musical show, but it's a disguised thing. It's a play in disguise. So it varies. The structure varies, the form varies, but the inner content of the actor getting to narrator, narrator critic, going back to the actor, the space shifting from this place to that place, the way I can shift my context from 1 day to 5 day, this place to that place, that's all decided by the Indian ethos. So I usually take elements from different sources, different traditions, and create a kind of theater form. It's a synthesis of Western and Indian aesthetics, or Western and Asian aesthetics, to make it more clearer. It happens a synthesis of Western aesthetics, Western modes, Western approaches, Western tools, but married to or related to the Indian aesthetics. And I may be using that external visual thing is just a visual. It's more inside my narrative theater, inside my narrative mode. It's more Asian, it's more Indian, it's more narrative, it's more sometimes ritualistic, depends on the thing, but it's more of actor oriented performances. Yes, nowadays, in the beginning I was thinking of thousands of people watching my play. As any youngster would love to see that, we have to address thousands of people. So many people see my production, I am more happy. But now I am more and more into intimate theater, because 300 people, 400 people very intimately watching, so that the subtlety of the expression gets communicated. And inclusive theater, using the audience also inside the design. I have started it in Tempest itself, which I did in '94. Audience becomes part of the design, designing the spaces. And sometimes the spaces are designed in the Tempest, the adaptation of the Tempest. The audience created the sea. The production they were sitting around. The production took place on a platform in the middle and also behind them. And there are 4 roads to come in. So it's a completely exposed thing. I don't hide anything normally from the audience. I don't use the curtain. There's no suspense. It's all narrative. It's all sharing. So I would love to share a space also. I should love to share the story. I should love to share the space, the movement. In Arcadia, the play happened on the stage and outside among the audience. And in one moment, I could make one of the audience as the character, not a pre-decided one. The actor go to the auditorium and see somebody and talks to him and says, I need a help now, because I am the king right now, but I am going to a pilgrimage to Delphi, as the Greek kings or the heroes or the kings of the Greek tragedies do. I have a problem in my life. I am going there. I may come back after 6 months. So till that 6 months, you please be the king of this land. And he hands over the headgear to this person, and he makes him the king. And in the last scene, he is asked to come to the stage and give back the thing, and there's an exchange. So this is kind of improvisatory thing that includes the audience, which they like it very much. They feel that they are part of the whole process and they could relate to the story, and it becomes a more kind of immediate experience. So I am more into intimate theater, inclusive theater, breaking the fourth wall, more informal theater. Theater becomes more informal. Many years before, it was more rustic and more energetic. And later now I could see that energy is being kept, and I'm trying to make it more aesthetic, means more finished. I'm using more and more of lighting, music, properties, training of actors, train actors with these things so that they could be able to do. Of course, I give focus on to the content, the relationship with the form speaking the same content again, and the visual language, the cultural atmosphere to depict my place, it's there. And also the actor will get spaces to perform. Each actor, he may be doing a very small role, 3 minutes, don't bother about it, but he should get a space on the stage to perform and show his ability to perform as an actor. If possible, If he's a singer, I will be happy to give him songs. If he's a dancer, I'll be happy to see that he's dancing. And if he's a juggler, if there's a space, I'll make it. No, I'm looking for spaces to show the actor also without disturbing the flow of the story, without disturbing the dynamics of the content. If I can find a space for the actor to be a performer, to show his skills of something he has acquired in his life, I also give that. So it's a kind of these things. This is the nature of my theater, and I think I maybe I might have said something about my work and my vision of theater. I would be love to answer to questions and things which you may be interested to ask me. So I leave to the people who are hearing me till now. So I'm happy to answer questions or hear your comments back. So it should be a better dialogue. A dialogue is the language of theater, not a monologue. I was doing a monologue right till now. Now it's a time for the dialogue. Inclusive theater, including you also into the kind of narration which I was doing. Parthosan is asking, so you told you always work with social issues. Did you work with some political issues in your theater? If not, why you didn't? Your theater is detailed presentation of emotions, I think. Yes. See, social issues is political issues. It doesn't differ. Social issues, by the term social issues, I mean political issues. It is not about party politics. It's not about one incident just happened right now. When I'm speaking about the issue of Shakuntala, it's about the politics of the patriarchy. It's about the politics of ideologies. It's the politics of ruling and the ruled. So all these things are there. So for me, politics is about social dynamics. Politics is about the power relations. How a few people, how a class of people is controlling the destiny of the whole land is the meaning of the politics. It's about the voices of people. Democracy is about the voices of the people. And is that addressed by the current or the history? That's the question. So for me, it's not two. My theater is political. My theater is political because I'm speaking about social issues. It's the same thing, and I've been addressing to that. I've been doing that for my first production itself. I've been speaking about issues. One of the first productions was Mother Sarkar's production of Mitchell. I'm speaking about the meaninglessness of the many processions that's happening, and these processions are not pointing, not directing me to my home, which I dreamt, where I could hear the voice of the other as music. I would love to hear the voice of the other as music. So I feel that all these different demonstrations in the street should leave to me. They promise me that, but they leave me in the street, and I'm losing it. And still hope that one day that procession will come, which will take me there. It's highly political. So the last play, Kariyadevara Huduki, speaking about the right of a female to go into the temple and how to equal opportunity as the men is political. So it speaks about political, and of course when I'm doing it, there's a storyline behind it. There's a text, there's a clear well-known text about telling the same story. So I have an emotional identification that happens within the actor which can communicate. So it's a kind of an emotional response also. It's not a sloganistic approach. I don't resolve things in my play. I don't think that by doing this thing can be changed. No, I create questions. I make you remember the history. I make you, this was happening from the time immemorial. This is happening to Draupadi, and this is happening to current day. I may be using images that can relate to the present day life sometime, somewhere. But when I was performing Shakuntalam, many women was crying. They could identify their life in it. So it's kind of identifying about things. Now there's a question from Balwant Thakurji about explain more on the basic distinction of approaches between Indian and theatre of the West. Balwantji, it's a big question. I worked abroad. I have did productions with an actor it's a group from Lithuania. I have done 2 productions with actors from Finland, one in India and one there. And I've been watching productions a lot that's happening outside, especially in America and other European countries. So what I just felt is that, as I said, for them it's always logic and logic and logic. They need a logic for this. Of course, that's good. It's Stanislavski. And for them, the final rescuer, the final god is Stanislavski. I have moments when my actor couldn't understand, couldn't cope with what I was asking from her to do. Then she just supposes, oh, Stanislavski, help me out, kind of. And then they work on the tools given by them. So it's basically about the logic and the emotional thing. That's very good. But we work more on intuition. We work more on kind of natural flow. Yes, there's a logic. We can find out a logic, but that intuition of the natural flow, oh, this is it, right? This organic process is that Asian thing. Of course, we use our body much more. I'm not speaking about the modern theatre from Arthur to Brooke or Barba. All these people from like Arthur, Brooke, Brecht, Barba, Schechner, all these people are molded their theatre from the tools from the East. Arthur took from the ritualistic performance of Bali tradition. He has not seen the Kerala tradition, but it's very close to Kerala tradition. Brecht has taken it from Chinese opera. He has not seen Kathakali or Kudiyattam. It's the same thing. So Peter Brook has visited India a lot. Rudowski has taken from the Eastern traditions, starting from yoga to Baul to Kathakali, whatever he has acquired, and Kudiyattam, they have taken it. So the modern Western theatre is looking to the East to enrich it. Why? That's a tragedy. The Indian theatre, at least a segment of Indian theatre was looking to the West to enrich ourselves. There's a conflict there. There's a contradiction there. Even we are trying to understand our own tradition from the reading of us by the West. We are understanding Ramlila from Schechner. We are not understanding Ramlila from Ramlila. We can have our own reading because the context is very important. The context of the performance is very important. And for them, it's just a performance out of context. Of course, they're trying to understand it as much as they can. But the real essence of that should be understood by us. And of course, the usage of the body is much more in our tradition than there. Our theatre is more using signs and symbols, signs and signifiers. Just like I told you that a sugar cane will take the character from Dushyanta to Kamadev, if you know the association. So our theatre is more of associations. We have more liberty to create. We have more equipments. We have more tools in here to think, and that is what they are looking for. So when they invite me to direct a play, they are actually searching for that. They don't want me to go there and do Stanislavski again with them, which they know very well. And it's how we can perform with the space, the object, the material, the body, the thought process, the flexibility of the theatre, the spontaneity of the theatre. That's what they are looking for. So that's a major difference. For them, for us, it's more of a kind of visual and experiential thing. We want to experience theatre. We don't want to just see theatre. We have to experience it. For them, it's more hearing and seeing. A detached they are sitting in the dark at a distance. They are sitting at a distance and watching the performance. So they're judging it. They are not participating in it. Of course, Arthad and Grotowski and those people wanted to make people participate in it, to make people involved in it. They wanted to make actors, not spectators. Actors. But for us, this acting is very spontaneous. It's very natural. It's very organic. It's traditional. It's part of our performance tradition. It's part of our life. So that's a major thing. So our theatre for me is much easy to communicate. For example, so that big question of how to do Tempest. Tempest is that one production which is much less performed in Europe than the other Shakespeare productions, because it has a lot of problems. Like Ariel is visible to Prospero, he is invisible to Caliban, but visible to the audience. And the food comes, disappears. How does it happen? How can we communicate these things? Like Ariel visible to somebody, not visible to somebody. Now he is visible, now he disappears. So how is it possible? So these questions of logic makes a lot of problems. But for us it's very simple. No, if I just act that I can see him, I can see him. If I act that I cannot see him, I didn't see him. I can use a mask and put it on my face so that you are not visible. I can remove this mask in my hand, now I am visible. So this immense possibility of assigning or using properties to communicate different non-realistic things is very normal in Eastern tradition. So I think this is the major difference, and they are much interested in it, and they have a lot of problems to imagine such things because they are not used to live in that tradition, live in such an atmosphere. For us this is it. And but the other thing like precision, craft, movement, the use of lights, the use of properties, the use of color, that perfection of execution, that clarity of expression, all these things we have to study from them, and we have to and the commitment. And I find the audience great there. For us, for even a small thing, the audience responds very quickly. They are just saying you, oh, it's immediate. The response is immediate. And this kind of an audience approach to theatre, and they respect you, they pay you, all these things are there. So it's totally different. Means, yeah. I think I've briefly explained what Belonji asked me. You believe in Ayesh Arif asked me, what is your vision of theatre when total narrative of life is changing day by day? Yes, the life is changing. The life is changing. We have to speak about the changes that's happening around. But essentially, even if it changes, it do not change. See, think about the fate of women. Think about the life of women. Think about the male-female relationship, the husband-wife relationship. How much it changes. We see a lot of changes externally, but internally, essentially, it is the same thing. So we have to address the essential inner core of thing, and that pain. See, media has experienced the same thing which any contemporary girl is experiencing. So that's a pain also. So we say that we have changed a lot. We have changed a lot from 2500 years, from the Greek days up to the present day. But essentially, basically, see, what about the caste system in India? What about the caste system in India? It was there in the time of Manu, in the time of the epics. We have changed. We are now democratic. We have gone through different regimes of life and culture. And we are right now here in a very post-colonial, very postmodern world. But what about the caste issue? Is it living inside you? Inside everybody? And I'm asking you, is it deciding your fate? And the fate of Karna is decided by that, because he was born to Kunti and Surya, but he has to grow in a Shudra family of Radha and a Sudha. So he's negated his chances in many of his life, and the same thing happens in contemporary life. The actor performing that character of Karna has experienced it in his own life, and how to relate that personal experience to the epic experience. And I am speaking about that. That's how my Karna Bharam becomes a contemporary statement on the present day society, social structure. So it's a present day social structure. Yeah, we are changing a lot. We have happening in new things. We are using new devices. We have the internet. I am talking to you from my room, and you are seeing it in my room, which was not possible 5 years before. We can speak, we can see, but essentially, and again I'll tell you that no, this is not just an Indian thing. It happens. There's a universal thing about all these things. The fate of women is the same in Greece, it's the same in India, it's the same in America, it's the same in everywhere. The fate of the Dalit, the fate of the downtrodden is the same in India, it's the same in America. See what's happening to the blacks there. See what's happening to the Indians, native Indians there, the native Indian people there, the aboriginal people of the land, how they are treated. So these things are there. So the plays are addressing them. We don't know. We have to express it. It's not. I'm not sure. I'm not. We are sharing the pain. We are sharing our anguish. Yeah, that's it. Anil Tikku has asked me about my experiences working with children. It's the most refreshing thing I had in my life. Because children are great imaginary creatures. They are simply great. They can create wonders. When you're working with them, when you're asking them to improvise, to create, to understand, to relate, it's just wonderful. They create. You just have to be with them, to be one of them, and give them suggestions, give them things. And one good thing is that each of the children, if there are 15 actors, somebody will be doing a very minor role, but each of them know the line of everyone. Each of them know the movement of everyone, and they are more sharper than the adults. See, when I was doing a play, there was a moment they were improvising. The children were. I just gave an improvisation a workshop. So they did an improvisation. One child has to travel from his home to a relative's home. So he has to go through a forest, and on the way there is a tree, and on the tree there is a giant or a yakshi who catches him, and he is in trouble, and then finally he escapes. So in that improvisation, the child started in one position. It was done in a park, and asked the audience to come along. The parents were the audience who came to see in the evening. So they did one scene there, and then just they traveled, and there's another tree, and the second character, the giant or the witch, has been residing there. So the second scene happened there, and then there was a kind of other people came in, they're escaping, all those things. This is a story they created, and then they came back. And then we were discussing about the performance. Then one of the parents asked, "Say, why do you make use of these two places? Why not you do it in the same place, so that you can have a better imagination? You can use your imagination to transform this place to the second place. Why don't you do it?" Then the child very innocently asked back, "But there are two places existing here, so why should I do that? The place is here and the place is there. It is there visibly, physically. I can just use it. Why should I take the pain to create something else and try to communicate that to you?" So the simple logic of environmental theatre, of using spaces, of making people travel, this Ram Leela tradition, the Mudiyatu tradition of theatre, he has not read Shekner. This young child who is 30 and 40 has not read Shekner. When I was doing Charandas show, the great text, and towards the final scene, when the queen is saying that Charandas, I would love to marry you, then he says, no, I have given a promise to my guru. Then please don't tell it to anybody else, etc. That scene. At that moment, that actor, that little girl who was 14 then, told me, sir, I don't like this scene. I said, why? She said, it's melodrama. She said, it looks like a melodrama. She doesn't have to bother about the great playwright Habib Tanvir. She doesn't have to bother about to speak about what she speaks about. Then I said, that's fine. Then we'll do it as a melodrama. Suddenly, the whole design, I changed the whole design, and suddenly a mic came down from the top, and then the way people acted in our commercial theatre. This queen comes and speaks to the mic, and then Charandas comes, removes her, and then speaks to the mic. Then she comes, and this kind of melodrama, and finally the mic goes up, and Charandas looks up and says, I am defeated. This is kind of inputs they can give you about even the design of the play. The children are amazing. They're simply great. And to just tell them to do, don't belittle them. They are not small. They are bigger than us. And it's all fun, and they love you for anything. They will test your creativity with their innocence. When I was reading Post Office by Rabindranath Tagore, to do with them, they told me, sir, this is a very boring play. I asked him, it's a great play, Nobel laureate. And then the child said, no, towards the end the boy is dying, we don't like that. Then I said, no, don't take it as death. It can be a journey. It can be, I try to philosophize it and convince them with some logic. Then they said, whatever you say is death. We don't like it. There's no fun in performing that. And then at the next level, she came with a stronger argument. So, okay, we agree to that. But you just think about the play. Two characters comes and speaks, one goes. The next person comes and speaks, and then other goes. And then comes another character and comes. See, two people coming and speaking, that's it. So there's no fun in performing it. We need fun. We need to spend our energy on performance. We need to move. We need to sing and dance. We need to perform. We need something like that. We don't want two people speaking, one goes off, other. She was speaking about the structure of the play, the narrative structure of the play, and saying that this is not interesting for a child. Maybe it will be looking great for you, but not for us. So this kind of creative originality, creative honestness, I will put it like that, is immense in children. And I always love to work with them. And once you can have a working methodology with them, a kind of relationship with them, a kind of tools which can initiate or transfer them from their daily routine understanding of behaving into a kind of performance oriented behaving, they'll just do wonders. And I love working with them, and I do it much organically, I will say. I'm more freer working with them. That's it. Anything else? I don't know whether there's any questions. Left unanswered. Thank you, Lokendra. Neeraj or Belvanchi, is there? Balunji asked me, I am a witness to the theatre of our region, I mean Jammu and Kashmir. How do you see it? Actually, honestly, I've seen only very few productions from Jammu and Kashmir, and two of them is done by you, Balunji. I love them. I could feel that you are trying to create that landscape in your productions. I have visited Jammu and Kashmir. I've gone to Srinagar in those good times, not now. I read about a lot. I've heard about many productions, but I've not seen it. I feel that theatre has to travel from Jammu into the mainland more. I have heard about Mushtaqaq. I would have loved to see Surat, but I couldn't see it because there's some kind of distance that has happened between Jammu and Kashmir and the rest of India. I know it's very tough and it's very difficult to do theatre, even live there, I know. But still, the theatre is going on there, I know. I would love to watch. And when there is, this life is more painful, the life is more tough, the theatre will be more meaningful. That's what history teaches us. When everything is smooth and very clear, we have the theatre also relax. But I would really love to see how the theatre of Kashmir addresses the life there. Honestly, even when I travel to Delhi or somewhere, they didn't come down. Once we invited Mushtaqaq's theatre group into Kerala, and they couldn't come because he agreed first and then said, the parents do not allow us to travel out. Yeah, I would love to come and perform in Kashmir. Ayash. Nabamita. Thank you, Nabamita. I'm very eager to know how, because Kashmir is totally a different state, culturally, musically, the life, the climate, the people, the color, the ethnicity, everything is different. How the theatre gets reflected. Other than the two productions I've seen of you, which I loved, I liked, I still remember after so many years, the visuals are there in my mind. Of course, I couldn't follow the language, but I could get the storyline. I could get the landscape. I could get at least some of its culture reflected in it. I could get your plays were much more pleasant and pleasing, but I could get that little pain which you have kept inside, resonating. But you are making it smiling, so that also I could get into. I'd love to see more about that, and that's it. The theatre has to bind the nation more. Theatre is the one thing that, see what we have done to the Northeast. We have special packages of the Northeast group to come to the other parts of India. They come from Manipur, from Assam, from Tripura, and we travel there. Because this Northeast festival, because Northeast is also having problems in the social life or the life of the Republican country. So to connect people, the government has found out that the theatre is good. That we are not done to Kashmir. Yeah, thank you, Yasin, once again. So, Balunji, that's about it. So, as concluding, I would love to keep my links with Kashmir, with people there, with Natrang, with you personally, and love to come there, see your theatre, see the theatre happening in Kashmir, know the young people who's doing theatre, where it is going, and how it addresses people, etc. And thank you for getting me to share what I do or what I think I'm doing in theatre. Actually, it's you people to say, seeing my productions. So this is what we understand from your productions. Then I am trying to put it, okay, this is it, this is it, this is it. So it's the other way around. But I was trying to respond to you from the responses I've got from people who have seen my productions from Kerala, from outside Kerala, from outside India. That's what I am trying to do that. So that's it. Thank you, and let's hope for a brighter tomorrow. Let's see that pandemic, all kinds of pandemics will be going down, not just corona. There are so many forms of pandemics happening in the country and in the world. We hope that everything will subside and hope we meet physically, because theatre is about meeting physically. We can use virtual, digital, streaming things in productions, performances. Of course, there's technology, but it doesn't substitute for the physical theatre, where, as I said earlier, where we share emotions, where we share stories, where we share spaces, and we could experience mutual visibility. My breath should fall on you and your touch should fall on me, kind of intimacy. Theatre is about intimacy, intimacy of physical being, intimacy of emotional being. So we wait for that. So thank you, and have a better evening and a better day tomorrow.